Hello, Javelina Nation, and welcome to week 2 of the Javelina Coaches Show for 2020 and 21. We appreciate you tuning in. And just a reminder, we'll be back here every week throughout the 2020 and 21 academic year, talking to our coaches as well as some of our student athletes as the seasons progress. But thank you again for tuning in to week 2. I'm Mark and Sarah, and I'm joined by the head Javelina women's basketball coach, Michael Madrid. Coach, thanks for taking out the time.
Appreciate you, Mark. Enjoy speaking with you every single week.
Good week where you guys split. One win on Saturday after coming off a tough loss on Friday. What was it you learned about your team this weekend?
We just continue to get better. I think they're finally, every week they're beginning to really understand what we're teaching every day in practice. And so every opportunity that we get to play a game is a bonus, because you can't make up for game speed, as we've talked about before, being able to watch things on film. I was extremely proud of our effort this weekend. As I mentioned Saturday after the game, I just felt as though we really grew up. And it's exciting to see them, it's exciting to see when the light bulb comes on, I guess, if you will.
You said one of the players who you thought really sparked your team was Mia Rivers. You gave her the opportunity to start in the third quarter, and she played well. What was it that gave you confidence that she'd be ready for that moment?
Well, it's just one of those deals where we talk to our players all the time about you never know when it's your time. And so just because maybe you don't start doesn't necessarily mean you won't finish, and those type of things. And so we just felt like we needed kind of a boost starting the third quarter, and so we moved Bree over to the off guard to give her an opportunity to be more of a scorer than to run the show, if you will, as the point guard. And Mia stepped in and filled her role tremendously, and I could not be more proud of her effort, and just looking to continue her to grow in that platform.
Mia Cherry also had a big day for you guys on Saturday. She came off a tough game on Friday, but bounced back pretty quickly. How much confidence do you have in her coming back from Saturday afternoon?
Mia does so many things that, the stat sheet really won't necessarily show. She plays so extremely hard. She's extremely competitive. She hasn't shot the ball as well as she normally does, but that'll come. But she's one of our best offensive rebounders, considering the fact that she's probably one of our smaller players. And so she just brings a tenacity that you love. And so hopefully our younger players see that and want to do exactly what she's doing every single day in practice and in games.
You've talked a lot about how you wanted to bring players into this program who have had a winning pedigree, whether they're from high school or they're coming from a junior college or transferring somewhere else. Doesn't matter. We want players who are winners. You're in a close game on Saturday late. How much does it pay off having players who come from a winning pedigree?
It helps. It helps because they've been in those situations before. I think it was Friday. I actually looked at Coach Weaver one time. This was, it was a fairly tight game on Friday, and I think it was third or fourth quarter. I looked at Coach Weaver at one point and said, "We have 5 freshmen on the floor," which I thought was awesome. And you look at a team like UTPB, they're primarily made up of junior college players. So they had a bunch of juniors and seniors, and we look out there and we have 5 freshmen running around. But what's exciting about it, Mark, is we were in every single game. You even go back and look at the international games that we lost. We were in every single game. And so as freshmen, that's awesome, and just looking to continue to grow every single week.
What are the things that made these student athletes perfect fits for the culture that you and Coach Weaver talk about trying to build here?
Well, I think number one, they're just outstanding young women. They value academics, and that's one of the things we talk to all of our student athletes about through the recruiting process is when you come to Texas A&M Kingsville, we're going to have a lot of fun, we're going to win a lot of games, but our biggest victory ever will be graduation. And so they value academics. They're outstanding young women, number one. High character young women. They understand the importance of a scholarship and what it means to them. And so, and then you look at the basketball aspect of it. They're all winners. They all have extremely hard work ethics. They're in the gym nonstop, getting up shots on their own. And so you put all that together, and it just comes down to us as a coaching staff not messing it up.
St. Mary's is up next for you guys once on Thursday. Then you guys end this streak of 4 straight home games when you go on the road on Saturday. What will be the biggest keys for you guys going into these next 2 games?
I think it'll just be, what we have continued to talk through all year long, just us being us, defending the way that we've defended. I've been extremely pleased with our defensive effort this entire season. At this point, we've had some mental mistakes, but we're getting better. And then offensively, just continuing to find our groove. We haven't really gotten into a rhythm yet offensively. As you know, we've had some quarters where we've had a little bit of lulls here or there, and so hoping we can be more consistent, maybe even put together 4 quarters as opposed to just 2 quarters. And St. Mary's is going to be extremely well coached. Jason does a great job. He's a great friend of mine. They have a lot of experience coming back. And so just looking forward, for the ball going up, and, we talk about in the locker room playing one possession at a time and hopefully going 1-0.
You mentioned how those lulls, I think you said on Saturday, that when you have a team with so many freshmen, that's going to happen. You're going to have periods of time where things fall off a little bit, but it hasn't seemed like there have been any moments that have been too big for your players so far. How have you been impressed by the fact that your team, as young as it is, hasn't seemed overmatched at any point yet this year?
Absolutely, and I think it goes back to our effort on the defensive end. There's going to be times where you can't score and you have to find ways to stay in games, and I thought our defensive effort at this point has helped us to do that. And so, when we can put 4 quarters together, that's going to be a really fun night, and then it's going to be great for them to see that and feel what that is, and then hopefully we can continue to do that throughout the season. But man, they're troopers. They work hard. They all listen. They want to be good. They don't want to disappoint. And so just thankful that they're all here and look forward to every opportunity we get to be with them.
When you have young players, how important is it to have players that listen and are coachable and are willing to listen and learn?
Well, it goes back to, their backgrounds. They've all been in those tight situations where, things necessarily haven't gone their way, but they've figured out a way to dig their way out of it. And so, they continue to work extremely hard. They watch film together on their own. We don't even ask them to do that, but they do it on their own. Before we even do scouting reports, they already know what the team is running. And so the fact that they're so invested in what we're doing is exciting, and hopefully our fan base feels the same way.
Talking ahead, Javelina women's basketball coach Michael Madrid on the Javelina Coaches Show. When you look at where this team is right now, how much improvement do you feel like you've seen so far?
A ton. Even starting from the first day of practice, just when you have 11 new players into a program and just trying to teach them every single thing that's going on as far as terminology and drills and names of drills and plays and things like that, we continue to get better and get better and get better. And so, practice for us is huge. It's huge. Today we get an opportunity to get on the floor, work on some things we didn't, do well this weekend, and grow and build. And so that's what we'll continue to do up until our last game, whenever that's going to be, and just continuing to work with them and help them get better.
All right, well, Coach, we'll see you again on Thursday. Thanks for the time. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you.
We'll take our first break here on the Javelina Coaches Show. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a moment. Helgeson to Stallworth. Stallworth looks she had to land to the basket, had it stripped by Haley. Lake ahead to Rebecca Haley. And Haley with the jumper. Pena and Javelinas have hit 2 of their first 7 shots. Permian is 2 of 4 from the floor so far. Going inside and scoring is Jade Schritter. Pena against Munoz off the glass. 2 more for Brianna Pena. Javelina's last field goal was at the 3:24 mark of the first quarter. Pena finds an open lane to the hoop for a finger roll. And Tamuk finally gets off the schneid in quarter number 2. Mickens to Pena. Pena will try the 3, and Javelina's needed that in a huge way. 11 points for Brianna Pena. Tamuk finds itself within 4. Mickens to Schritter. Schritter trying to get past Heyman. Now finds the hoop for 2. Ball into Cherry. Cherry trying to get inside, ties the game. Palmer to Rivers. Out Palmer from the free throw line. Ties the score again. And now Tamuk looking for their first points in the second half. Payne will try and answer with a 3 of her own. She's got it. Into Williams again. Thrown out. Payne for 3 more. 1-point game. Payne to Mickens. Throws it inside. Payne off the window. 8 points for Janessa Payne. Rivers to Payne. Neither player has a team in double figures except for Brianna Pena, who's got 13. Pena to Mickens. Rivers underneath Pena. It's 2 more. Javelinas have scored 19 of this game's last 21 points. And a steal by Mickens. Tamuk can hold for the last shot. Cherry to the basket. Cherry with two players in her face. Throws it out. Payne left wide open for three. Javelinas again willing to take their time with a 6-point lead as we are under 50 seconds to play. Schroeder to Cherry. Cherry goes inside for a bucket. With a second half in which they outscored Permian 31-18 and erased what was a 9-point deficit to earn a 10-point victory. Javelinas improved to 3-3 on the season. Permian drops to 2-4. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Javelina Coaches Show here in 2020 and 21. And our second guest here in episode 2 is the head Javelina indoor and beach volleyball coach, Tanya Allen. Coach Allen, thank you for taking the time out for us today.
Thanks for having me.
You guys, and from an indoor perspective, just started practice a few days ago. What's the feeling like finally being able to get back on the court?
We're really excited to be back on the court. I think the girls are excited to be playing. At this point, we don't take anything for granted, you know, and just being able to practice and having a full team out there and having something to look forward to, having a schedule on the docket is really exciting.
This isn't normally the time we'd be talking to you about indoor volleyball in the middle of January, but everything's a little bit different this year, and the season will look a little different in a number of ways. But how have you and your staff tried to keep this team's focus solely on volleyball?
Yeah, it's a unique situation we're in where we have indoor in the spring. You know, usually you don't have such a competitive season, and so it was a blessing that we had the fall and we could use that as an off season and sort of prepare them a little bit for their season. But at this point, we're being competitive. We're stressing the fact that we want to do well, we want to succeed, and we want to set goals and help them do the things they need to do to reach those goals.
How much of a benefit has it been to have had that, like normally the time you would have spent working with your team in the spring, well, that's essentially what you guys did in the fall, and now you're getting ready for a season in the spring. How much of a benefit has it been to have had a little bit of extra time before the regular season?
Yeah, we appreciate that extra time a lot. There was a lot of skills that we were able to work on that normally we wouldn't have the time for with new kids, freshmen or transfers. But also because they hadn't done anything since March, they'd been off for so long, a lot of the fall was spent trying to get them back into shape. You know, making sure we could take care of them and keep them healthy. So while we did get some extra time, I think it was limited in what a normal off season would look like.
Who has surprised you the most going back to the fall and now with what you guys have done so far in the spring?
Well, it's difficult with this group to really pick out one individual because honestly there's a handful of them that are really going hard and really surprising us and really have so much potential. I think a lot of the new kids are doing a great job of finding a role to fit them and finding a way to contribute and showing a lot of determination to be successful at their positions. And I think a lot of our returners are recognizing that and really competing, you know, to make sure they can maintain where they're at. And I think it's making us better as a unit. It's making us better as a team, and we're learning how everyone can contribute in some way.
Have you and your staff made it a priority? Obviously, we mentioned this before, things look a little different, but have you and your staff made it a priority to try and keep things the same and try to make sure there's as much continuity as possible as far as what you guys are trying to accomplish and what your message is to your student athletes?
Absolutely. Our expectations don't change. Just because it's in the spring and it's kind of weird with COVID and there's so many different protocols and there's a lot of change, I think it's important for them to understand that we as a staff and our expectations have not changed. We still have really high goals. We still want to do what we can to be successful on the court and to really you know, make an impact in the LSC, which is obviously very difficult to do. So our standards and expectations aren't changing. It's just the protocols and everything leading up to that are kind of different.
Obviously, now you guys just started practice a few days ago. What are the goals that you and your staff have for the first few days of practice here in the spring?
We're kind of assessing whether or not they're in shape, you know, whether or not they did anything over the break. We don't want any injuries. But we have put a lot of emphasis on offense. I realize we're only a couple of days in, but at this point we want to make sure that they are offensively prepared for the kind of defense they're going to face in this conference. It's very difficult to score with such high-level talent on the other side of the net. So we're putting a lot of emphasis on establishing, how to get one-on-ones and how to get kills if you do have a double block in front of you, and broken play scenarios is a big thing for us. If we can score in transition or in broken plays, we will be much stronger offensively.
How confident are you this team will be ready when you guys first get on the court for a real game?
Oh, I definitely think they'll be ready. We have a lot more time ahead of us, and I think they understand that they need a sense of urgency that we have to improve right now. We've got to prepare right now because we can't wait until the night before and expect to be successful.
Now, one of the things that's going to make this indoor season so challenging for you and your staff is the fact that the beach volleyball season is going to start up, and you'll probably have those two seasons going concurrently. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
I assume.
Yes.
But how much planning have you and your staff done about how to approach a situation where maybe beach is in one place and indoors in another at the same time?
Absolutely. So planning has been our MO for a while now. I mean, you definitely have to try to plan things out, and it's going to be tricky, to say the least, but luckily indoor plays on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and beach plays Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, depending on the tournament that we're at. So benefit-wise, we'll be able to be at all the competitions. I'll be able to make sure that I'm at everybody's competition. As far as practicing goes, there may be some instances where I'm with one team and my assistants are going to have to run practice for the other team. It shouldn't be that often. It works out where we can have one and then I can go to the other, but for the most part, I think there's going to be a handful of times where our dual kids are going to be, rushing around trying to get from one to the next, and I'm going to have to be transporting them from one location to the next location to play, or where they may only practice an hour in one sport and then have to play. And so it's going to be, I'm less worried about myself and more worried about our kids that are dual. That's a difficult task to ask them to do, but they all seem open to it. They seem excited. They want to contribute to both teams. They have a great mindset about it, and so as long as we can make sure they're rested and healthy, I think it's doable.
So much of what you guys do in beach, so much of you guys travel a lot. Start that over. Mm-hmm. You guys do a lot of traveling in
Correct.
beach. You play in different states. You've played in places like Florida, Arizona. How much of more of a challenge is scheduling in a climate like this?
Yeah, it's difficult. There's a lot of different parameters. There's a lot of different levels that we have to get approval from. It's not as simple as we want to go play this competition, so we're going to do it. There's a lot of protocol that we have to factor in to our scheduling, so it's not as easy as a task to do, which means we don't even have our schedule set yet for beach. We're still working on that. It's not as simple as, can we go play in Florida? What do you do if you get there and a kid gets sick? Or what do you do, if a kid has a fever? Or, there's a lot of circumstances that we have to consider. And it can't just be, we need that competition. So it's been a little bit slower process than it has in the past, but I think we're going to get there.
All right, well, Coach, we certainly can't wait to see you guys back on the court, be that hardwood or sand, over the course of the next few months. Thanks again for the time.
Thank you.
And best of luck this season. We'll see you again soon.
Appreciate it.
We'll take one more break here on the Javelina Coaches Show, and we'll be right back. Our third guest, the head men's basketball coach, Johnny Estelle, will be here in a moment. Don't go away. Wilson. Avery for three. Luna for Flowers. Flowers for three. He's got it. And the Javelinas keep possession. Patterson throws up the three. He's got three more for Tamu. Flowers. Inside. Stovall lays it through. And Creighton Avery will get it back. Avery left open for three. Makes it count. Avery against the much bigger Burkott, trying to weave his way to the basket. Instead, he finds Jordan Wilson, who swishes it. Patterson's hit 3 of his first 4 shots. Wilson looking for 3 more. He's got it. 8 for Jordan Wilson. 17. Patterson for Jones. Thought about the 3. Now he'll step back and throw it up. Ellis Jones apparently doesn't miss from 3 this season. Jones, the long 2-pointer. He's got 2 more. 9 for Ellis Jones. Wilson gets his man in the air, scores, and 1. With 6 points and 2 assists so far today. We'll try and add 3 more to the Javelina total. He's got it. 9 for Creighton Avery. Luna with a lane to the hoop for a bucket and a foul. Falcons wanted a foul. There was no whistle. Wilson through horn for 2 more. 13 for Jordan Wilson. Flowers left open and makes it count. And Tamuk with Avery tossing it in, and Flowers all by himself. He could have. Patterson out to Marcus Jones, throws up the long 3, and he's got his first 3 points. Jones shooting better than 50% on 3s this season. Selvage racing the opposite way, but a steal by Ellis Jones. And he'll put it in for 2 more. Jones now has 11. As they lead this one by 26. Jones makes it 29. 14 points for Ellis Jones over the course of the last 2 minutes. I don't think that'll bother the Javelinas too much. Ellis Jones for 3 more. 5 in a row for Timuk. Johnny Estelle has 90 wins as head coach of the Javelinas. And they move to 7-1.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the Javelina Coaches Show here in 2020-21, and we're joined by our final guest on today's show, the head men's basketball coach, Johnny Estelle. Coach Estelle, great to see you. Thanks for taking the time out today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Another good weekend for you guys. 2 more wins. You guys have run that streak to 5 in a row now. You guys held your opponent, UT Permian Basin, to their 2 lowest point totals of the season. And I know that defense is always a hallmark of what you guys try and teach and hang your hat on. How happy were you with what you saw defensively from your team this past weekend?
Well, I think, anytime you hold your opponent on 20 on their average, you got to be, ecstatic about that. And the game plan that we went into the game with, Coach Gonzalez did a phenomenal job with that. And, putting us always in a position. But, the kids, the way they played together to actually, implement the plan collectively is what you're the most proud of. Because that requires toughness, consistency, mental toughness, physical toughness, rebounding, everything, just competitiveness. And that's what this group does a great job of. They compete together, and they do everything together.
What is it that's led to this team having so much chemistry and playing so well together so far?
The decision they make every day to do it. It's not, you're not asking them to do it. They do it on their own. They do it with ownership reasons and rationales because they want to be champions. They want to win. They want to make sure that they're doing their part for the team, but also they're doing their part for the Javelina Nation.
You mentioned the game plan that your assistant coach Omar Gonzalez helped put together. I feel like it seems like every game after we talk, you talk a lot about how Coach Gonzalez has done a great job preparing the team, whether it's the game plan, the scouting report, getting them ready for whichever opponent you guys have coming in. How integral is the role that he's played for you as a part of your staff the last few years?
Well, I think ever since I've been a head coach, every assistant coach has worked with me. But Omar is a special guy. He started with me as a GA. He left, he was with me for 3 years, and he left and went to Blinn as an assistant and then came back as a full-time assistant. And, he's a phenomenal guy, meaning that he's a unique guy for a young professional today. That's not a knock on young professionals. He just cares about every program. He cares about every kid. He's got so much pride in his work that it makes my job easier. So, you know, I'm not worried about, you know, what he's doing off the court. I'm not worried about his loyalty. I'm not worried about if he's working on behalf of our program. So everything he brings to the table, I know is going to help us win. He's a selfless guy. He's just like our players. So I try to give him as much credit as possible, because at the end of the day, there's some head coaches, which, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, they should, if wrong, right, or indifferent, they don't give their staff enough credit, or their players. I do get the wins, but I also get the losses. And we have that shared philosophy in our program. We share the work, we share the blame, we share the success, and we share the dream. So I'm sharing these victories and this great showing with Coach Gonzalez and my staff.
You added one more coach to your staff we got here. Past few weeks, Coach Matt Mcgorran. What were the things that made him a good fit for your staff?
He's a good fit for Kingsville and the dynamics. You know, he brings a different skill set than the other two, me and Omar. He's done in this short week and a half. He's made an impact with the guys. He's a team guy. He's a family guy. So at the end of the day, you know, if you have those kind of, you know, attributes, you're going to really fit into our program. So he's done a very good job there.
You had another Javelina make his debut on Saturday. Robertson played in his first game for Tamook. How happy are you to be able to have him back healthy and ready to go for your squad?
You know, Ja, he can give you another dimension. It's really unfair because he's been hurt, you know, and he's missed a lot of time. And this team has, you know, basically, you know, not that it's hit his peak by no means, but finding minutes sometimes is difficult. But we know that he brings another skill set that even some of the guys that are playing his position don't have. It just requires him to continue to work every day in practice and gain confidence and be ready, because you never know when your numbers are going to be called. You
guys have another challenge ahead this week. You're at home against St. Mary's on Thursday. Saturday, you guys will be at their place in San Antonio, and you're going against a Coach Zalesnak, who you've seen a lot of over the past 7 years since you've been here. He made it tough on you guys last year, the year before. They beat you guys twice, and you guys came back and won twice against them last season. What are the things about St. Mary's, the program they have, the team they have, that makes them a challenging team to play? You know, our relationship goes way back, man. He was actually assistant coach when I played here in 94 and through 96. Great guy, man. He played at St. Mary's. He's kind of, you know, we're very similar. You know, he's at his alma mater. He's done a phenomenal job there. He worked with a Hall of Fame coach, Coach Buddy Meyer, which is Coach Meyer, his assistant's father. I coached against Bubba, which is the assistant coach. So St. Mary's and Kingsville has always had a rivalry and always played every year. It's a tough game. But, you know, every year is different. You know, he has a different team this year. We have some of the guys back from last year, but we have a different team this year. And but I really like what I've seen of them so far on film. They haven't played as many games as us, you know, but they have some talent like always, and they're well coached, so it should be a battle. What will be the focus for you guys in the lead up to this weekend? Man, you know, just one more game. You know, can we continue to play one more game? And at the end of the day, we're trying to build those little mini tournaments like I talked about in the post game, you know, because at the end of the day, that's what the national tournament is going to be like. You know, I don't know what the format for Division II is going to be. You've seen Division I has came out with their format for the national tournament, and that's where our goal is, to try to get to the national tournament, but we can't get there if we're not taking care of business every day. All right, well, Coach, thanks for the time. I appreciate you coming on today. Hey, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for tuning in to episode 3 of the Javelina Coaches Show. Be sure to check back next week. We'll have 3 more coaches and maybe some student athletes on as well. But my name is Mark and Sarah, along with Johnny Estelle, and also thanks to our other guests, Tanya Allen and Michael Madrid at the Javelina Nation. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next week.